Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining IBM Tech Exchange webinar. Before we start, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A box where you can start submitting your questions for our presenters today. Later today, you will receive a link to the on-demand recording and a link to IBM's community page where you can connect directly with our experts. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Joe.
Hey, thank you so much. So depending on where you're joining us from, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And again, thank you for being here with us today. We've got a really exciting discussion in store for everyone. We're really going to be gravitating around two topics that I think are front and center in the world of IT today: business continuity in cloud. And as a distinguished engineer at IBM, and I'm responsible for all of the Power as a Service offerings, one of the really kind of cool and exciting aspects of my role is getting to talk with clients from all across the globe and pretty much every industry vertical. And without a doubt, one of the topics that's top of mind for nearly everyone is how to construct a comprehensive business continuity strategy, especially in the world of enterprise cloud. And to help shed some light on these topics, it's an absolute pleasure of mine to be joined by two industry experts, Greg Tevis and Mira Rangarajan. So Greg is the Vice President of Strategy at Cobalt Iron. Greg has 43 years of experience in storage and data protection, including 36 years with IBM. So Greg, it's good to be close with you here. He's a globally recognized leader in backup and disaster recovery. He spent most of the last 10 years as a customer consultant for storage, data security, backup, and cloud technologies. And Greg was also a fellow IBM Master Inventor for 15 years and holds 43 patents. So great to have you here, Greg.
Thanks. Glad to be with you, Joe and Mira.
Absolutely. And Mira is our worldwide program director at IBM, and Mira is responsible for all of our Power as a Service offerings, with a focus on building a really strong portfolio around business continuity and disaster recovery. She has more than 25 years of industry experience across our IBM Power stack, ranging from hardware to software to systems performance and ecosystem. So pretty much if there's an area, Mira has worked in it. And so for me, given the extensive knowledge and experience of both Mira and Greg that bring to the table, I'm just really looking forward to today's conversation, where we're going to dive into various aspects of business continuity and disaster recovery. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So Greg, my first question is really over to you. I mean, what role does backup play in the overall business continuity in DR, and really what are you hearing from clients in this space?
Yeah, and I also wanted to welcome all of you to this webinar on this important topic. And yeah, let's jump right in. So Joe, as you're saying, this business continuity and disaster recovery, really a core part of it is data availability. Your business, as we all know, your business doesn't continue without your data. So effective data backups are a critical foundation of business continuity and disaster recovery. As we see, cyber criminals realize this fact, and we've seen in the last 2-3 years, especially, a concerted effort by these, scoundrels, I would call them, to target the backup environments. There's an industry analyst called Sophos. They put out a report last year that found that 94% of ransomware attacks on companies also attempted to compromise the backup data. So they know the critical nature of backup. There was also a Forbes article, I don't know if any of you saw it, came out last month, February this year, highlights the FBI's advisory regarding what's called the Ghost Ransomware campaign, which also targets backups and exploits unpatched vulnerabilities in widely used software and firmware. So this is a critical area, backup and data protection, to be aware of and keep hardening. Surprisingly, effective backup operations are not as common as you would hope, and especially in the cloud environment where backup is typically an afterthought. I see this quite often. The complexities and exposures involved in terms of amounts of data, many locations, piece part products that are available to help you, and of course the ever-changing threat landscape, cyber threat landscape, these facts are almost overwhelming, even for the best staffed organizations. And so businesses need help protecting their data easily and consistently, so they know they can recover data and continue business in the face of any events. Joe, you asked what we hear and observe from clients around the world around backup and business continuity. When you said that, several things came to mind. And perhaps the most concerning thing that came to my mind is what we don't hear. Often customers, especially customers moving to the cloud, aren't thinking about backup at all. And some may even assume that the cloud providers take care of that for them, but the onus is always on the data owners to protect their data. One thing I do hear commonly from organizations is that they need to recover not just their data, but also the services and the applications that run their business. So it's really around a business continuance and disaster recovery, which includes their services and key apps. So data recovery needs to be coordinated with their databases, ERP, other key applications in the environment. And then another thing that came to mind, a very important point that clients sort of dream about a little bit is, well, how do I avoid business continuity and DR scenarios in the first place? With the awful plague of, continual cyber attacks, are there things that they can do to insulate their business and their data from threats? And so that's what we'll be digging into a little bit today. Joe, before I turn it back to you, I just want to say an observation. So Cobalt Iron as a company and as a solution, Compass as a solution, we work with all the major cloud providers. And I really must say that IBM has done an exceptional job delivering integrated backup and DR solutions for the IBM Power Virtual Server workloads. And again, we'll be talking about that a little bit. And there are new levels of cyber protection and business resiliency that we'll get into here in a little bit. So Joe, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Greg. I mean, that's some really good insight. And I think it really kind of sets the stage for everything we're talking about today. I mean, quite frankly, never a day goes by where I don't hear about something. I mean, in fact, it was just last week, I heard of a client, the European-based client, their data center. In fact, they're, again, like many of our clients, they're hybrid in nature. They're running on premises. They're also looking at how to start leveraging cloud. They're sometimes doing things in both places. And in fact, in this one particular case, the client's data center unfortunately flooded. Like literally, their systems were underwater, right, due to another problem. And in this particular case, it at least worked out. The client had done some backups to the cloud, and within 24 hours, they were able to restore. So again, that was a really great story. And I think, back to your point though, for every one of those stories, there's probably umpteen other ones where people maybe hadn't kind of thought through all of that, and they're scrambling to try to get things back together. So again, it's like the insurance policy. You hope you never need to use it, but when you do, it could be a make or break situation. So I mean, that's really great.
And the heart of what you just said is that preparation. They were prepared, so they didn't have to fear. So yeah, good example.
Yeah. So thanks, Greg. So Mira, I mean, Greg provided some really good perspective there on backup. What's your view, Mira, on disaster recovery and how clients should sort of be thinking about that in the broader theme of business continuity?
Sure, Joe. Thank you. And really excited to be part of this forum again, and this topic, which is so critical today, business continuity. And like you just mentioned, the case of the client, who had a flooding in their data center. Again, disaster recovery is something that is very critical in these times. Again, we live in times where there are highly interconnected systems. We're working with multi-cloud environments. We're accelerating the adoption of analytics, AI, cloud, and really organizations cannot tolerate downtime at all. That's what we're hearing and seeing, right? There is zero tolerance for downtime, and it's, organizations expect that all their systems or their infrastructure, their applications, their services are in an always on mode, right? So in that context, outages of even a few minutes can negatively impact the reliability and security and pose a serious compliance issue, especially to enterprises and for companies that are in the regulatory space, right? So given this, disaster recovery is an absolutely important part of business continuity. And it's all about ensuring that the IT or the infrastructure is available immediately. I mean, when there is a downtime, it is able to come up and be operational as quickly as possible after disruption. And like you said, the disruption could be a natural calamity. It could be a human error. It could be an actual hardware failure, or it could even be a ransomware attack like Greg was talking about. And evolving the right disaster recovery strategy is hence very, very important for clients. We've been in client discussions where there is little thought given to disaster recovery, or it always happens as an afterthought. But for enterprises that have mission critical applications, you often see that there is a high amount of strategy that goes into how do they want their disaster recovery architecture to look like. And it's always also a combination of having certain workloads that are highly available, certain services that are highly available, and certain services or workloads that can tolerate that coming up or being available after a certain amount of time. And hence, this strategy is very unique to each client landscape or each client workload, right? And typical metrics that are used in determining what is important from a availability standpoint or from a recovery standpoint is the RTO, the recovery time objective that tells us how quickly the service is up and running after a disruption or after a failure, and the recovery point objective that talks about the usable data. I mean, from the point of failure, what is the next usable data, or how much data loss the company or the business can tolerate, right? And arriving at the right RTO and RPO is very unique to each client. But what we've seen is that for enterprise clients, they want their RPO and RTO has to be under minutes, right? And they also need a high degree of simplicity and automation when it comes to their DR solution. Over to you, Joe.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mira. That's some great perspective. I think, and in fact, along those lines, when you're talking about simplicity, I think that's a really good segue over to Greg here for a minute. So Greg, I mean, if we just take a step back here for a minute, can you talk a little bit about Compass and in this vein that Mira was talking about simplification and such? How does Compass simplify and secure data protection? That kind of that aspect of business continuity.
Yeah, Joe, as Mira pointed out, having an effective disaster recovery strategy is absolutely critical. But as I mentioned, implementing that and maintaining an effective security posture, including proven data backups and disaster recovery processes, is not for the faint of heart. There are many moving parts to just a backup, let alone DR processes. Cobalt Iron Compass helps. Compass is the solution that Cobalt Iron has developed to simplify and secure automated, or simplify and secure enterprise backups. And so Compass combines the compute, the storage, the backup, the database, analytics, and other best-of-breed technologies into an automated backup experience. So Compass is not just another software or hardware backup product, but it's a whole new way of experiencing technology. And through analytics, software intelligence and automation, Compass really eliminates many of the typical cyber threats in the backup space. And it does that by removing access into all those components of the backup environment. And with that reduces the number of resources that are needed to manage that, and also the skills required to manage your backup environment. So the focus of Cobalt Iron as a company and the Compass solution itself is on operational excellence for backup, recovery, and disaster recovery. Compass takes organizations, what we say, from backup operations from barely surviving to thriving. And this is all done with Compass automation, and that simplifies and secures data protection.
Greg, that's great. I mean, and to that point, and I know Compass really has been, kind of for the reasons you were mentioning, right? I mean, it's garnering a lot of that industry attention, and I just maybe if you could kind of spend a few minutes talking a little about why it's so special, like, and really how is it helping the clients kind of transform how they approach business continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're saying, Compass is getting a lot of attention in the industry, especially from analysts and partners and the customers that know about us. So Compass brings a lot of industry differentiators to the backup market. But three in particular come to mind that bring the most value to customers. The first one is really simplicity. Compass manages and maintains the entire backup infrastructure using automation and analytics through a cloud-based service and administered through what we call the Compass Commander dashboard experience. Compass is that simplicity. Compass is delivered in a hands-free SaaS model, either across clouds or even if it's on-prem in hermetically sealed appliances. What we found from our customers over the last 12, 13 years is that about 80 to 90% of those backup operational complexities of managing storage, managing and maintaining health of devices and operations, security, performance, all those, patch maintenance on all the components, about 80 to 90% of those operational tasks just simply disappear and evaporate with Compass, and that including that automated patching, which simplifies operations. The second thing that comes to mind, so first of all, simplicity. The second thing that Compass brings to the table in terms of value and differentiation is security. And that Compass automation, it's not just automated scripts, it's an entire automation of the entire backup infrastructure and operations. So that brings unprecedented levels of cyber protection. Why? Because you don't need a database guy going in and managing the backup database, or the backup server guy. You don't need your backup admins going into the backup software. You don't need storage guy into the storage. And so all those logins in a large environment, there could be dozens of them from 5, 6 different departments. They don't exist with Compass. And with that, it just removes and evaporates those cyber threat vulnerabilities. So everyone's talking about a great security model called Zero Trust, where you have to, on your phone, to get into anything, even into your kitchen cupboard now, you got to validate who you are somehow through your cell phone or something else. But Compass has introduced a new security model to the industry that really takes it to the next security level, which we've trademarked as zero access. And it's that zero access into any of that backup infrastructure that I talked about. So, and we've discussed, how in a normal backup environment, all those backup admins, system admins, DB, storage, networking team, all have access to backup. All that's removed with Compass. So that brings cyber protection. In addition to that, Compass has cyber analytics, event analytics, and monitoring and detection. And a key difference in the Compass solution is that the security features are built in as a core part of the platform. It's part of the architecture. It's not an add-on. It's not a bolt-on. It's delivered with every deployment, whether it's 1 terabyte or our largest customers that are, hundreds of petabytes. They get the same level of security and service. So that's the second thing. The third one that comes to mind in terms of differentiation of Compass is something that vendors don't talk about enough and customers don't talk about enough, and that's data governance. And so customers increasingly need to understand and monitor how data is managed and be able to prove that to their business. Compass is very unique among backup offerings in providing tremendous data discipline throughout the data lifecycle, backup data lifecycle, and putting customers in a recovery readiness and audit readiness stage at all times. And this is an important aspect of what Mira is talking about, the overall disaster recovery and business continuity strategy. And then finally, I'm going to cheat, Joe. I said 3. A fourth one just came to mind. In terms of a unique differentiator of Compass, and that is what we have going with IBM, the Power VS team and the IBM Cloud team. The integrated and automated Compass solution for Power VS directly from the IBM catalog. I don't know of anything else in the industry that is as easy, as automated, and as cost-effective as that in terms of protecting those cloud workloads.
Yeah, no, Greg, thanks. And you're right. The simplicity, everything around zero trust. And there's just, when we talk about, business continuity and DR, there's just so many moving parts and aspects. And I really like, how you kind of laid out the simplicity aspect of it, having it directly integrated into the cloud catalog, not having it be quote unquote a bolt-on or an afterthought. That integration and just having it kind of baked into the natural life cycle of how people are thinking about cloud and their workflows. I think that's a tremendous value. And yeah, like you said, we're just zero trust, and some of these, these concepts are everywhere. So as long as it doesn't lock me out of my front door, I'm good to go. These are all, these are things that are great. But no, I mean, I think that's a really good. In fact, so Greg, thank you for that insight. I think, so Mira, I want to shift to you for a minute a little bit. So, we've been talking a lot about data protection. And Greg gave us some great insight on what Compass is doing there. I think that's really great lead into kind of disaster recovery. And could you just spend a minute kind of talking about how is IBM tackling this with Power Virtual Server? For example, our storage replication and maybe some of the adjacent automation technologies, a way to even kind of continue to complement what Greg was just referring to.
Great question, Joe. So, one of the most important use cases for Power Virtual Server is business continuity. Again, typically some of the important use cases we see is data center consolidation. What drives our clients, Power clients, to consider Power VS's data center consolidation or reducing, the capex or wanting to have an environment where they can do DR or dev test or modernization. These are typical use cases, and business continuity is such a critical use case in that set. And Power VS or IBM Power Virtual Server allows clients to experience the same RAS capabilities when they choose to adopt a cloud-based environment for their failover requirements. And typically, why do clients, again, disaster recovery is an event that you would wish never happens. And hence, when clients are looking at how much they want to spend, how much they want to budget for their DR requirements, it's definitely on the lower end. They want to be as cost effective as possible for their DR environment, because it's an event that would never happen, hopefully, but if it does, it's going to be for a short duration of time, after which they can fail back. So cloud is increasingly, or the IBM Power Virtual Server is increasingly becoming very appealing from that perspective for business continuity requirements. And IBM Power VS is the only enterprise today that offers storage replication between cloud-to-cloud sites or between long distances. And this is again, we've seen most of our on-prem Power clients use storage replication extensively to replicate all of their data, or all of the data volumes. And we wanted to give the same experience to clients when they move their workloads to Power Virtual Server. And that's why we've enabled storage replication between long distances. And this technology is known as GRS, or Global Replication Services. It's based on the industry standard IBM Flash GMCV, or Global Mirror Change Volume. So with GRS, again, most of our Power clients are enterprise clients. And with GRS, we've seen that the RPO and RTO that I spoke about earlier, they meet the requirements of enterprise workloads. I mean, the RPO for when you use GRS is well within 15 minutes. And the RTO can also be brought down substantially if there is a high level of automation that you pack in. Today, GRS is available at 18 of the 22 Power Virtual Server data centers. So we sort of cover most of our geographies. GRS can be set up manually, or it can be automated with a newly available product called the Power Virtual Server DR automation that implements GRS in a very simple way. Or we also have a comprehensive suite of toolkit offerings from our expert labs to set up and manage GRS.
Yeah, no, Mira, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, and I think the spirit of everything that, you and Greg are really talking about here is, again, taking these mission critical business continuity functions, simplifying it, integrating it into the cloud catalog for, a point and click kind of configuration style. I mean, so that's great. Thank you for that perspective. So Greg, we've been, centering a lot of the discussion around business continuity, backup, and DR. Obviously, all of these things as we've been, highlighting are top of mind for folks. But we certainly, want to spend some time talking about shielding our enterprises from cyber attacks. And I know you were touching on this earlier, but I guess if I double click on that, I understand Compass has some really unique characteristics and capabilities in this space. Maybe can you talk a little bit about those and its zero access security model?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I'm still chuckling over Mira's comment. Mira, you're trying to politely say we're all cheapskates, right? It's like no one wants to cough up the bucks to do what needs to be done. So I was chuckling about that. But it's really important, right? It's like cost effectiveness is critical part of all this. We have to be secure in securing our organizations, but we have to be cost effective. And so, but you were very polite. I probably wouldn't have said it quite so nicely, but yeah, Joe, coming back to your comment, we have briefly talked about Compass automation. That automation, as I said, eliminates that operational access into all the hardware and software componentry of the backup environment. Why? Because it can be done. It's like we can do with software, managing all of those components, the backup server compute, the OS, the database, the storage, and all the other backup components. That is what we call that zero access architecture. You can't do it on a database where part of it or other IT technology where you have to have access, because that's that's where the functionality is happening. But in the backup environment, we can do it, and Compass does do it. Locking down, automating all components of that backup environment. It's a very unique model that, as I said, we have trademarked it as zero access. And what's unique about Compass is that higher level of cyber protection that architecture brings to backup. Those many access points into a typical backup landscape simply do not exist with the Compass architecture. And as a result, that zero access security model removes typical ransomware attack vulnerabilities. And in addition to this, Compass also, the Compass architecture is very unique, Joe. I didn't mention this, but it also eliminates any footholds for distributed denial of services attacks into the backup landscape. Again, because there are no entry points to start, flooding with requests and trying to down those services, because there's no entry points into those. So not just ransomware is protected against, but also other types of cyber attacks. At the beginning, we talked about customers dreaming of being able to avoid business continuity and disaster recovery scenarios proactively. To a great extent, at least for the backup environment, Compass helps customers make that dream a reality, and that's very unique in the backup market.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's I think a really kind of key aspect, Greg. I mean, and obviously, yeah, I mean this notion of simplicity. I mean, these things are critical, and it's like I said, it's that resiliency that it's putting in place to kind of prevent these denial of service attacks. I mean, heck, even on my I run a I'll call it a prosumer grade home network, and it's like every day I wake up to all kinds of different threats and things at my house, right? Let alone in a business. And so the fact that you've got these like well-defined barriers around it where there are no access points, I think that's huge. So so Mira, maybe to transition you for a moment here. So I think one key topic that I hear about repeatedly in these discussions is simplicity. I mean, that's been also a key theme that we've been talking about. And you alluded to this a little bit, but maybe could you spend a few more minutes kind of talking about the disaster recovery automation solution, or DRA for short. How does that streamline things for clients, and what are, in your mind, what are some of the big wow factors that are really garnering attention from clients as you've been talking to them on this journey?
Sure, Joe. Again, I couldn't overemphasize what our clients' feedback has been on how simple they want their automation solution. I mean, or how simple or how automated they want their DR solution to be. And we've had, like I said, the storage replication technology, GRS, we've had it around for over a year, and we've been talking to clients from the product management team on what they would like to see over and above this. And one of the things they said was if it was possible for them to not have to invest in skills to do their DR setup and manage their operations, then it would be a dream come true. And that's where the Power Virtual Server DR automation product comes in. This was made generally available just in Feb this year, about a month back. And this is exactly what that does, right? I mean, DR DR automation completely abstracts the DR setup and operations aspect and implements GRS in the backend, while what the client sees is that it's very simple to set up DRA. This is actually available in the cloud world. DRA is available on the cloud catalog. So with a single click, the client can order the solution, the software. It gets in, it deploys what we call the orchestrator, which then takes over the entire process of the DR setup and operation. So whether it is the VM configuration, whether it is the network configuration, capacity reservation, all these complex steps or processes are abstracted by the DR automation product. And what would typically take, and we did a few POCs with sponsor clients, and initially, if they had to implement this manually, it took them weeks, right? And with DRA, we've clearly seen, we have proof points that show that what would typically take them weeks has been reduced to hours. So clearly, single click, easy to operate off the catalog, easy to set up and do DR within a matter of hours. And then when there is a failover, and DRA will support planned and unplanned failover. We have it on the roadmap to support failover rehearsal as well. Again, a key requirement for most enterprises. And even with failover, it's a very simple single-click process, right? So, and we had two types of clients that we did this POC with, right? One set of clients that were managing small number of VMs or LPAs, and they were okay doing the setup on their own, right? But then there was one client where we had massive number of LPAs, and doing the DR setup and operations when you have a large number of LPAs becomes very, very pronounced. And that is where the USP of DRA is. The simplicity kicks in there, and it's very popular. So DRA is actually based on a very popular product called the VM Recovery Manager that clients are used to in the on-prem environment. It's built on that, but it's built for the cloud purpose. So, and like I said, clients can now today order DRA off the catalog, and you can consume it in a monthly fashion, and the monthly billing and invoice is also supported.
Right. No, thanks, Mira. That's great to hear, and it definitely sounds like it's easy for clients again to get started. I think again that is always a repeated theme, and it's great to kind of see that innovation. So I think it's really evident to me that again, business continuity is top of mind for everyone, and I think it's been really great to hear about some of the innovations that both Cobalt Iron and IBM and that are kind of happening and have some great technologies to really help clients along every step of this otherwise complex journey, and really trying to make this more approachable. So Greg and Mira, before we wrap here, I'd like to ask both of you about any parting thoughts, or just again, based on your extensive experience, guidance that you might have for folks in terms of how they should think about approaching business continuity in this dynamic, cloud space that we live in today. So Mira, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, again, like I said, business continuity is super critical, and I'm so happy to see or say that IBM is very consciously investing and innovating their products in the Power Virtual Server side to give clients the same experience they have on-prem. And the way we are partnering with experts in this industry like Cobalt Iron shows how committed we are to giving that secure and RAS specific experience to our enterprise clients. DRA or GRS and Cobalt, the backup is really two sides of the business continuity coin, and extremely critical for clients. And IBM has partnered so strongly with Cobalt Iron in this aspect. It's out there. I would encourage clients to go, reach out to the experts, reach out to the IBM team, start their POCs, but definitely give business continuity, DR, and backup clear thought.
Right. Thanks, Mira. Very, very insightful. So Greg, over to you, my friend.
You bet. So as organizations move to leverage the benefits of cloud, I always remind them to cloud responsibly. And what I mean by that is to ensure that you're maintaining that data discipline that traditional data centers always employed. Make certain you're considering the things that we're talking about here today: business continuity, disaster recovery plans for a variety of scenarios. And at the heart of those plans are effective data backup operations that you know you can recover with. And unfortunately, this is something overlooked quite often just by, the normal hectic responsibilities of running a business, but be certain you test your continuity and recovery plans and operations regularly. Many of our Compass customers worldwide, especially the larger enterprises and financial organizations, leverage Compass as a core ingredient of their business continuity and DR plans and tests. And Cobalt Iron collaborates with our customers on these important endeavors. So Cobalt Iron has been doing this, protecting businesses worldwide, some of the largest enterprises in the world. And as I said, the key aspects that we bring to play here are simplicity and security. And so Compass is deployed worldwide. It delivers simple and secure protection for your power workloads, as well as most of the other workloads in your enterprises, whether on-prem or in the cloud. And then whether you're just looking into Power VS or already there, Compass is easy and the easiest and most secure way to protect your data. And IBM is actually offering a free 30-day trial on Compass from the IBM Cloud catalog. You can contact your IBM seller or Cobalt Iron for more details. Joe, before I leave, and first of all, I want to say thanks for everyone for joining, but I also wanted to say hats off to IBM for the Power VS cloud offerings in general, and specifically for working with Cobalt Iron to provide a simple and secure enterprise-proven backup solution with Compass. Power workloads require nothing less, and Compass is deeply integrated within the IBM cloud. And it's really the easy button for enterprise-proven backup of Power VS and other cloud and even on-prem workloads.
Yeah, great insights, Greg, and thanks. And so maybe now, just before we wrap here, I'd like to just take a minute and see if we've got any questions in the chat from the audience. And in fact, Greg, there is one that we will start with you here. There was a great question from a client here, and they were actually inquiring. Maybe could you just spend a brief moment talking a little bit about what is the general Cobalt Iron or Compass charging model, and how does it work in environments with zero downtime?
Okay, so Compass is charged by the amount of data stored, so how much data you protect, and that's after deduplication and after compression, so it's very efficient. Most others charge backup services, if you will, and other clouds are by the terabyte. That's fine, but Compass is by the terabyte after it's compressed and deduplicated. Plus, the Compass pricing includes a second copy at another IBM Cloud region. In terms of handling environments in downtime, that's really shifting to some of the things that Mira was talking about. Compass is backup, and so it's a recovery operation. It's not real-time replication. So there are other solutions that the IBM Power the cloud has for those real-time high availability type of requirements. Mira made a good comment earlier about that range, there's a range of things to prepare, recovery scenarios to prepare for, all the way from, hey, for critical applications, you may need, instantaneous failover type, and that's, part of a replication or HA type of solution, all the way down to, DR of various terms. Compass is more in the backup space, so recovering data after it's been lost.
Okay, no, great. Thanks, Greg. So Mira, we've got another question for you. So maybe Mira, could you just spend a brief moment talking about what setup and skills are required for the DR automation technology we're talking about?
Sure, Joe. Like I said, again, there's really not much skills required for when you use DR automation to set up your DR, and when you want to do storage replication with Power Virtual Server. So it's available in the cloud catalog. It's a single click, and it immediately starts deploying and then takes over the setup and operations. I would also encourage clients to leverage or avail of the promotional offer that we have from IBM to do POCs, right? So any new clients wanting to try Power Virtual Server, we have a $2,000 credit. Again, this is a free trial with self-service onboarding. It's valid for 3 months or 90 days, and the duration of the credits depends on what t-shirt size you're using for your setup. We also have an automated deployment available for you to quickly set up Power Virtual Server, getting the VMs up in a matter of minutes. And with DRA, which is available, you can actually test out this entire automation. We have a SME team. We have a center of excellence team that can help support you and walk you through or demo to you the product, etc. So I would really, the setup itself is very easy, but we have a team of experts to help guide you, and the promotional, which gives it to you for free for the first 3 months.
Great. No, thanks, Meera. So that brings us to a wrap on our discussion here today. And so I want to spend a minute and just kind of briefly circle back to where we started. I mean, I think it's clear, and I think everybody would unanimously agree that business continuity, again, is just top of mind for organizations. It's something that people are always thinking about how to do and how to approach. I mean, obviously, especially in this world of enterprise cloud. I mean, especially when we look at the IBM Power business, I mean, these applications are, running the crown jewels and the data of these organizations. And so this topic, Meera and Greg, as you both, stressed, really, really is critical. And it's obviously great to hear about all of the innovations and technology that both Cobalt Iron and IBM are bringing to the table, and really to simplify the lives and streamlining things for these enterprise client use cases. So, Meera, Greg, been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me here today and sharing your invaluable insights. And most importantly, a huge thanks to our audience. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you spending time with us and being here, and looking forward to seeing and hearing from you in the future as you go on these journeys. And take care, everybody, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.